certainly not for the Bats. Pete Caldera covers all things Yankees for the Bergen Record. And I tell you what, it's been a unique year, Pete, to be talking about like fire sales and the last week of July. I love saying the first place Baltimore Orioles headed to the Bronx because I've really never had much of an opportunity to say that in July. This is unique, right? And I think all the buzz around the franchise has been 2 decades now since they've had a sell-off. It's games like Monday night when Ivan Nova comes to life and they play a good game that sort of gives everyone thought, well, they can sneak into this wild card. But as a Yankee hater, if I were a fan, if I were on the radio in New York, I'd say sell, 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 man. How you doing, pal?
Great, Nestor. Thank you. I think a lot of the fan base is actually saying the same thing. That they would they'd like to see this organization sort of copy what the Red Sox model has been the last half a decade here, which is just if you see it's not happening, try to turn it around, sell off your assets, get some real good young athletic players in there, help boost your organization, and then make a run at it another day. I know that's not the Yankee model. It hasn't been their business model basically since George Steinbrenner was suspended by Fay Vincent.
Well, it hasn't needed to be, though, right?
Like
I mean, they had some bad years in the late 80s and early 90s with some of those, quite frankly, the awful contracts of that era, right? I mean, not really much different about A-Rod and Teixeira at this point than where they were in the late 80s when they had, sort of too old, too much money, and really not a farm system. But the farm system for the Yankees isn't, again, everybody brags about their own farm system, but my impression is they have a pipeline. The Orioles don't have a pipeline. They don't have anybody to deal off, a week and a half before the trading deadline. Feels like the Yankees do have some guys that they're feeling like are on the come, right?
Yeah, they do. It's not so much in the pitching area as it is in the position player area. But yeah, I guess you could certainly make an argument that you could see Aaron Judge out there in right field pretty much every day next year, or Greg Bird at first base, and Rob Refsnyder, in any of 3 positions possibly, or traded for something more. And then their best position prospect is still a few years away in Jorge Mateo, the shortstop or second baseman, whatever he's going to wind up at the big league level. They have some high hopes for James Kaprelian, the UCLA right-hander they drafted last year. But, some of these guys have also been dealing with injury situations. And Kaprelian, he's had an elbow thing. He hasn't pitched, since spring. Judge is now dealing with a knee situation that's probably going to keep him out 3-4 weeks. Bird had shoulder surgery in the off season, and he's missed the entire season. He's not coming back until next year. So, there's still some question marks attached to the development and the health of some of these guys. So, yeah, it's not a huge bumper crop down there, but there is some hope.
Pete Caldera covers all things Yankees for the Bergen Record. Birds in New York with the Bronx Bombers. And, for the ethics of this, right, and the organization to say, well, we sold skyboxes, club seats, sponsorships, Yes Network. The Mets were in the World Series last year, so that certainly puts more pressure to not wave a white flag. I sort of understand that. I think one of the real interesting dynamics, and look, the Orioles have had many sell-offs back during the Sid Thrift eras. Gillick wanted to sell off. Obviously, the McPhail sell-off netted Adam Jones and netted Chris Tillman, which has been a huge part of the success of the Orioles. But just to make a trade for trade's sake, that's one thing. But what you really get for Beltran, what you really get for Chapman, that's a thing that we don't know much about Cashman because he's never dealt from this side of the table before, looking for those kinds of prospects.
Right. I think he's wanted to. I think there have been circumstances in the last few years where you had that kind of Yankee team. You saw it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where the years they didn't make the playoffs, when they could have been sellers at the deadline. I'm sure Brian Cashman would have to some degree liked to know what package would have netted another team, Robinson Cano, when he was headed towards free agency. And the Yankees were headed toward one of those rare seasons when they weren't going to October, which is now becoming a little more frequent now. But yeah, and it's going to take somebody's, it's going to take a real haul of prospects, I think, to get a guy like a Chapman, especially, who can impact any number of contenders and put them over the top going into October this year. Beltran, he's been their best hitter. You could certainly see a difference he could make to a lineup like Cleveland's right now. But again, I think the price is going to be pretty high in prospects. But I think Brian Cashman, listen, we've seen him patch the tire on this team. That's what he's really done around this year. Patch the tire, add players, add veterans to fill in for injured guys or to try to make a run. You're right. He's dealing from the other side of the table now, but I think there's a real zeal for him to see what he can do here.
Pete, if you had a crystal ball, what's going to happen here? I mean, are they really going to deal off a bunch of guys? Or is it just going to be, well, I got a nice bid on Chapman, we'll give him away, we'll go play without him? That seems to be sort of ridiculous to either, don't stand in the middle. Jump all in and, go trade a prospect and bring in another pitcher or whatever you feel like your deficiency might be if you really want to make a run for it. And they're not so far out of it that it's inconceivable, right? And certainly Monday night's game is that exact prescription of what they want. Get me to the sixth inning, get Betances in there, and boom, 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 just like the Royals did, just like the Orioles would like to do, and win ball games that way. That's kind of been their prescription all along, waiting for Chapman to get back and do that. They're in it, and I don't know that the Red Sox or the Blue Jays or the Orioles are prepared to run away, but certainly the Red Sox look to be pretty feisty here in Ortiz's walk here, right?
Yeah, they really do, and I think they're the best balanced team in this division, the Red Sox, when you consider, that, they could use, and they have, gone out and gotten themselves Pomerantz to sort of help bolster the one, weakness they really have, which is their starting pitching, which is amazing to say after they spent all that money on David Price, and he hasn't really had a Price-like year.
Dude, the old man here doesn't spend money on anybody. The two guys he spent money on, Jimenez and Gallardo. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not the reason the team's in first place. And then, he lets Chen walk, right? And they miss Chen. I mean, you let a number 3 go and you don't really replace him, you wind up missing him in the modern baseball world, right?
Yeah, right. And it's the Orioles starting pitching you wonder about that going forward here too. But they can also beat you 11-10.
Or lose 2-1.
So, right, but that you talked about that model with the Yankees, and that was the recipe going forward, that they could win a lot of games, a lot of one-run games like that too. But their lineup has been so disappointing. Their starting pitching's really been a crashing disappointment. It's been hard to get a Yankee starter through 5 innings if he's not named Masahiro Tanaka. So and I really think they have to look at the reality of their own situation here. Yeah, all right, they're still in it as far as wild card, and no one's really run away with the AL East, but
and they play a lot of games against AL East, right? So they can, if they play good baseball, they can. But how are they going to play good baseball with Teixeira hitting $185?
Well, these teams that's it. These teams that are ahead of them are fundamentally better than them in so many departments. And do you really want to risk going for it to get the second wild card and have another 3-hour appearance in October and have to be in this position all over again? I think at some point in the next couple of weeks here, the reality of their situation will grip them, and I really do believe at some point. I mean, if you had to ask me which way do they go in one way or the other, I got to think at some point Brian Cashman is going to ownership and saying, look, I think we could do a whole lot better here if we sell off a couple of these players, as long as he can get what he really wants. As long as Cashman and the baseball ops people can get what they really want out of some team's farm system, I think the way to go and the way that they'll sway this argument towards ownership, which has been reluctant, as you know, is to say this is the best way to go. Let's deal now and regroup next year.
Pete Caldera, longtime beat writer for the New York Yankees at the Bergen Record, also sings in the Stan Rubin Orchestra in Old Manhattan and loves dimly lit saloons, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes because I had a whole rock and roll week last week, Pete. I'll tell you about that, but I want to stay on point here. You say management's reluctant, right? And look, I mean, from George to Hal and Levine and all these guys, what is the reluctance? I mean, what do these executives see? And I understand I own a business. I run a business. I have sponsors. I have happy sponsors. I try to keep them happy, right? And they don't pay nearly as much as they do for Yankee club seats, right? I mean, I sort of understand that, but what is the upside if you're Hal? I sit here in Baltimore where the owner has done nothing but screw the city, screw the fans. We had the All-Star game last week, but he couldn't make nice with his own partners. So the All-Star game gets played in National League City, costing the city $50 to $80 million allegedly in revenue. So, I mean, I understand the money side of it, but what organization has done more for their fans than the Yankees when it comes to winning? I don't think the Yankees front office owes the fans anything in that department. I think that they've given Yankees fans thrills for a lifetime, right? So to take a pass for 8 weeks and say, let's go raid, Cleveland's farm system, or let's go get somebody from the Rangers, or let's see if the Nationals want something here and we'll steal something from them. And come to spring training next year with 6 or 8 new bodies, oh, by the way, saving the money, which we never talk about that part of it, but, Beltran ain't cheap, right? So getting rid of him for 2 months also saves some money in a year when you're losing. I don't know what the downside would be. Are they really concerned that people aren't going to renew their sponsorship packages?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some realism towards that, and a lot of, listen, you brought it up too, I really do think it's a number level. It's they've never been in this situation before in the last 20-something years. There's
which makes them completely unique, right?
Right. There's an ego about this organization. There's the business model and the mantra that they spout from spring training on about it's a failed season unless we're raising the flag here.
Can I ask you, have they had Old Timers Day yet?
Yeah.
See, I mean, that would be something like if on September 18th they're going to, bring that together and have been holding a white flag in 30 games under 500.
Well,
I sense some embarrassment with it, right?
They'll find ways to fill the stadium. But, yeah, I mean, ad revenues and the ratings on the YES network, there's handing the city over to the New York Mets factor. I mean, there is other things at play here. Financially and otherwise that the club has to consider. But I think what defeats all that at the end of the day is are you making your business better by just treading water here when you could be making a real killing in a boon market here for the pieces you have to feed other prospects. I'm not saying give them to the Orioles or the Blue Jays or the Red Sox within your division, but there's a whole other league out there that has a lot of contenders, and they could use some of these guys.
Pete Caldera covering all things Yankees. So is anybody off limits, Pete? I don't, would they put some money in a satchel and say, just go take CC, or would they put some money in a satchel and say, here, take Ellsbury if you're willing to put him in your lineup? I mean, I'm wondering that out loud as well because, nothing's off limits this time of year. I think, the best GMs kind of get creative to some degree, right?
On their 25-man roster, I would say the only guys that I wouldn't, if I was them, I wouldn't sell off, and I think they're probably in the same boat here as Didi Gregorius, who's a burgeoning star now, which is hard to say if you were having this conversation last May.
I watched him play before.
Right, and I mean a guy they can control, who's young, who has a future, who's got a great upside, and is showing it now. Betances, another one who's could be a closer on any club at this point, and frankly, that might be it.
Tanaka also. I mean, as much money as he's making, but he takes the ball.
I wouldn't say that about Tanaka because he does have an out in this contract too, that's coming up in the next couple of seasons, and if you really are rebuilding this thing, if you look at it, you take a step back. This is a pitcher that's got a lot of mileage on him too, for as young as he is.
And he's been hurt.
And he's been hurt, but he has value too. So I would not put Tanaka in an untouchable situation. I wouldn't put Andrew Miller in that situation either, because what a difference he could make and what a haul you could probably get for him too. But I don't know if the best deal you could make for say an Andrew Miller or Masahiro Tanaka is right now, or if it's at the winter meetings or something like that. So these are conversations I'm sure Brian Cashman's having all the time. I'm sure he's got the roulette chips scattered all over the table there, and covering every number and calling every team and finding out the best deal he can get for these guys. If you're Cashman, he's always said, I'm always open for business. There's not a player you can't ask me about. He may have some certain untouchables in his own mind, and that ownership won't let him deal. You're usually talking about the Mateos and the Birds and the Judges and those kind of people. But on his 25-man roster, I think he'd listen to anybody.
Well, and it's all his team, right? I mean, he's been running the place for so long. What's on the field is really on him. I mean, he's had a huge budget. I mean, he's the one that made the call, signing up the Ellsburys and giving the McCanns the money and all, and even Tanaka. And I'm with you. It's felt like a little bit of a rubber band or a Band-Aid at some point. For you, is it going to get broken up? I mean, are you betting on them dealing 4 or 5 of these guys before the deadline?
I would say that if you ask me, what the opinion is now, I would say that Chapman and Beltran would not be Yankees on August 2nd.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't know if they have either the appetite or have what's coming back that they could get in return for guys like Evaldi or Miller or those kind of guys at this point. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they traded Evaldi, especially. Nova, based on that last start he had against the Orioles, he's a free agent at the end of this year. If you can get something for him, I would definitely look to deal Nova.
Well, I mean, they're showing off everybody, right? I mean, They got Chapman hitting the gun at 105. I mean, come on, whose gun is that? Really?
Well, they say that was, I think that was StatCast, right?
Palmer was almost laughing at it on the broadcast.
Just like the Yes Network's gun. Yeah, that was a little surprising too, because this was Chapman's second straight day of pitching, and usually you see him dip down. What 99?
Dude, he's Chapman. He's not like Sid Finch. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? I mean,
right. If you could not have had a better advertisement for, hey, come make a bid at our closer than him lighting up 105.
Hey, or make a bid for our starter, which, which brings me to the next level of this thing. So, I mean, you are of the opinion the Yankees will not be playing in October this year, right? You're of that opinion?
Yes.
Okay, so then it's one of the other 3 teams. Give me a little synopsis as you see it. I've been saying all week, since the Red Sox have stepped up, and since I sort of know where the Orioles are, given their abilities to trade and what they have, in the Gerard Aparo pipeline, I would say, look, the Red Sox are the favorites, even though the Orioles are there. If you gave me $1, and I'm sure in Vegas, if you gave them $1, the Red Sox are the favorite to win. Make a case for the Blue Jays. Make a case for the Orioles for me.
Well, if Estrada comes back strong, the Blue Jays may have the best have the best starting pitcher in this division, and other than the guys in the Rays, if Archer ever pitched like he did, but this is a team that's not in it.
Boy, they're a mess. We just saw them. I mean, I picked them to win the division. What the hell do I know, right?
Well, I mean, they had the pitching, so...
we thought they had the pitching until they didn't pitch.
Right. No, they didn't pitch. Neither did the Yankees. So yeah, I really do. I'm really waiting for the Blue Jays to fire, and I'm curious to see if they make what move they could make at the deadline too. But
well, they made a lot of them last year. I mean, they gave away guys, right? I mean, they gave away top prospects in their organization. You can't do that every year.
No,
right?
you can't do that every year, right? But listen, the Orioles have I think the greatest position player in the division by far in Manny Machado. But yes, the Red Sox have all those fantastic athletic guys in Bogarts and Betts. They're impressive to watch because they can beat you in so many ways. And then the Orioles, to some extent, you're waiting for Trumbo to hit a 3-run homer sometimes, and that can be a tough way to win if there's a dominant starter out there against you. But I wouldn't listen. I would give almost an equal chance for any of those 3 teams to win this division. I would expect at least 2 of them to be in the playoffs this year. And it's going to be who pitches the best in October, but you can bash your way there, and the Orioles are certainly capable of that, and they've got an excellent bullpen too, so I wouldn't dismiss them at all.
Pete, as the beat writer for the Yankees, I pity you over the next 10 days here because at any moment it could happen, right? I mean, that's the thing with like the Red Sox deal with Pomerantz and even the Shields deal with the White Sox 6 weeks ago or whatever. It's like, hey, we're kind of all on the clock right now, and I have a feeling there's going to be some movement here with so many teams out of it and so many teams really like Cleveland and the Orioles in Texas that have been chomping at the bit to get after it, that you would see some teams, Miami, as an example, really take a gander to say we're going to go all in on this thing, right?
Yeah, and, Yankee fans are in they're in a position where they've never been before. They're going to be sitting there probably on August 1st when the trade deadline passes, having dealt off players that they probably have invested jerseys in, and they're getting back players they've never heard of, and that hasn't happened probably within the lifetime of a lot of these Yankee fans that are paying attention to this at this point now. So this is we are in uncharted waters, but it's going to be fascinating to see, and it's going to be fascinating to be able to cover this and sort of watch how this transition takes place, because I think it's going to happen within the next 2 weeks here.
Let the games begin in the big trade-a-thon of 2016. All right, so, dude, I got to ask you about your band, right? So, we've had you on many times. We've talked about it a little bit. Last week, I finally presented. I was the music critic for the Evening Sun back in the late 1980s and early 90s, and, I was on the Times Mirror website. Not website. Hell, there was no website. Wire is what I mean in 1988, 89. So I would get, like, frontline interviews because my stuff went on the Wire and got picked up by 400 newspapers, right? So, like, I interviewed David Bowie and John Bon Jovi when he was very young and the Red Hot Chili Peppers and all this cool stuff. So I put it on the radio last week as our music week, and it's up in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault. People want to hear Brad Delp from Boston, talking about his band and all that. So I'm a music guy. I just want to let you know that. We took a little downtime because the All-Star week sucks. It sucks to do radio, although those uniforms out in San Diego, they're fantastic. Those warmies were awesome. I'm old school, and so are you apparently. Tell me about your band now. You're playing this weekend, but how often do you guys play?
Well, we try to do once a month. It's the Stan Rubin Orchestra, so I'm just lucky enough to play with these guys at the Carnegie Club, once a month on a Friday.
The Carnegie Club sounds swanky. So what does that mean? Is it $20 to get in? Wait, give me the Carnegie Club.
Well, there's no cover on Fridays.
Okay.
But it is one of the few places in New York where you're allowed to smoke.
Cigars?
So, yeah.
Or cigarettes?
Or whatever you're smoking, which is... as long as it's legal.
Oh, okay.
In the state of New York.
Coming soon.
But if the smoke turns you off, it's not. I wouldn't recommend going. But if you don't mind it, and it's not too bad. They have a very good ventilation.
But you do Sinatra, right?
And we do Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Bobby Darin, Nat Cole, all those kind of.
Okay, so it's not a Sinatra thing. So I got my start in Baltimore radio on the big band station. I bought airtime and on AM 1230 WITH in 1991 and 92. I'm celebrating 25 years, and it was literally the music you're talking about, maybe with a little Humperdinck mixed in there, right, or a little Ella or whatever. And then this crazy son of a gun would come on and scream about the Orioles in 1992 and scream about getting an expansion football team. So that was me. So I love big band music, so that's really cool that you do that. And once a month, right?
Yeah, once a month. We're doing it this Friday at the Carnegie Club from 9 to midnight. It's on West 56th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue.
Man, that's right in the heart of the action there right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right.
And across the street from Carnegie Hall, but not exactly Carnegie Hall, if you know what I mean.
Right on.
Yeah. Drop on in, and we do 3 sets. And it's a lot of fun.
Nice. And I know there are some videos on YouTube and whatnot. Stan Rubin Orchestra. This is Pete Caldera. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at PCaldera. That's Caldera. Longtime Yankees beat writer and very busy Yankees beat writer right now for the Bergen Record. Happy sell-off to you, Pete. I hope we chat again in a couple of weeks, man.
It'll be fun. Thanks again, Nestor. I really appreciate it.
All right, love having you on, man. Pete Caldera from the Bergen Record. P. Caldera on Twitter. You can find me nasty at WNST.net. Anywhere the internet is served these days. Hey, Nasty, can't get your signal no more. I'm on the internet, dude. So just hit the mobile device. It's all there for you. The Buy a Toyota Audio Vault there 24 hours a day. Download podcasts, listen live when you want, where you want, how you want, including probably inside the Carnegie Club in New York or in the Bronx or wherever you happen to be. Morning morning newspaper hits your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, you never know when breaking news is going to happen. And when it happens first on the WNST text service. Ask anyone. 10,000 people on it. Every one of them satisfied, except when their boss gets the text bill. Sometimes I don't know how people still have individual texts, but they do. I get those emails twice a month. But you sign up. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. I'm Nestor, nasty at WNST.net. Reaches me anytime, anywhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. Anywhere you are, we are. WNST.net, AM 1570 in WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports. Towson, Baltimore.